Welcome, guys, to the DeVory Darkins Show. And in today's episode, we're talking about a shocking update from the Democrat Party. Just when you think they've reached a new low, they surprise us every single time. And we're talking about something called a master ICE tracker. This is insanity, okay? It's just insanity. And we do have, if you guys already know, a special guest in our studio, Myron Gaines, the host or co-host of Fresh and Fit podcast, someone we know is best friends with Israel, someone we know has strong opinions regarding women. But you know what's interesting about this interview? It represents what free speech is all about. As you guys know, we like hearing both sides to the conversation, and I'm going to try to have all sides in our studio. So it's good that we were able to get Myron to join us today inside the studio. And before he comes on camera, I just want to address some of the updates we have today. We have the Master ICE Tracker. You guys already heard about that. We'll get into that. There's this whole thing with Elon Musk going after Sean Duffy because Sean Duffy wants to basically roll NASA under the Department of Transportation, which, you know, depending on how you feel, could be something that's crazy. And then you have Democrats threatening to get NYPD involved in order to arrest ICE officials. So we're going to show you guys that. And we have a multitude of other stories that if we have time, we'll get to. But the whole purpose of this collaboration with Myron Gaines is to get his expertise, his perception about the way he sees America and these particular issues. So if you guys do have questions that you want us to ask Myron while he's here, we'll definitely have a time to get to those. So put them in the chat. Also, shout out to my people on YouTube. You guys have been with me since day one, of course. And also Rumble. Our show goes live Monday through Friday, 1 p.m. Eastern time, bringing you guys common sense commentary for these uncommon times. All right, so without further ado, I'm going to read some chats because we're still waiting for Myron here to get on cam. And then we'll hop into these into the interview. Okay, let's see here. Let's see what you guys have to say this morning. Let's update that. Is it this one or is it this one? Yeah, it's this one right here. Perfect. Okay. Yeah, welcome. Tim is Beanie Man. He sent me here. Yeah, shout out to Tim Poole. Thank you for my Rumble peeps joining us here. We finally have Myron in the studio. So
hey, what's up, man? I had to keep up with the black stereotypes.
Yeah, why don't you tell people what happened here?
Hey, yeah, no. Basically, you know, long story short, Ubers are really slow in this part of Texas. So
yes,
you know, people are directionally challenged, and as always, they don't speak English either, right? It's like, oh man, what's going on here? I thought Trump signed an executive order. Right. I can't escape it too. It's like I always get the guys that can't speak English, whether it's in Miami, here. I'm like, oh yeah. Man.
What's up?
What's up, brother? No, of course, man. Absolutely. Thank you for having me. Absolutely. I just tweeted out that we're live as well.
Yeah, so. pretty cool that we're live.
Yeah.
All right. So interesting story before we get into it is that we already did an interview. Okay. And because DeVory's new at having people in his studio, because this is all brand new, if you guys have been following me, we accidentally deleted the interview and we couldn't get it back, unfortunately. So I asked Myron personally to come back out and we're going to do it live. Like Bill O'Reilly, we're going to do it live, right?
There you go,
okay.
Man. The Mossad deleted it, chat.
Yeah, that's what Myron believes. Okay.
The Mossad deleted it. We had a really good conversation. So.
Yeah. So why don't we do this? Let's first start where we did last time.
Sure.
With that, my number one question for anybody who comes to my studio, it's going to be the same thing, which is, what do you think is the one thing people misunderstand about who Myron Gaines really is?
Yeah, and thank you for affording me the opportunity to kind of explain this, right? Because a lot of interviewers are trying to more get a gotcha moment or whatever versus kind of understanding my perspective. So my thing is that we've been lied to on a multitude of different things, whether it's who really runs this country, women, feminism, relationships, fitness, you know, we've been lied to about so many different things in society. And my job is to kind of come in and be a truth teller on topics that, you know, are, number one, very important for political and cultural discourse, while kind of giving a more, you know, layman's terms approach to exposing these things and being unapologetically honest and raw. And, you know, people tell me all the time, Myron, well, your delivery could be a bit better. You're very controversial. Do you really need to do the, you know, mustache man jokes, all this other stuff, if you know what I'm saying? I know we're on YouTube, so I'll keep it clean. You know, we can navigate that.
Yeah.
But my thing is, I'm a firm believer that in order to protect free speech, you must have those that are willing to go on the edge of it and really push it so that the rest of us can enjoy it, right?
Right.
I mean, don't forget, literally just a couple of years ago, you couldn't say that there were two genders, right?
Right. Of course.
You know,
And the
so
vaccine.
if you don't use it, you lose it, right? It's just like it's free speech. It's kind of like muscle mass. It's like there's atrophy if you don't utilize it. So people like myself and many others, you know, we try to push the boundaries and tell the truth, especially when it's not convenient to do so. And hopefully that emboldens others, right? And we've been able to get the message out there. Like this one topic when it comes to Israel has been a very taboo topic prior to 2023. And I'm glad that it's finally getting the mainstream light that it deserves, because this is actually the topic that got me demonetized on YouTube. So I'm really glad that we're finally able to have this conversation and, you know, be able to have discourse on it.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And a multitude of other things too.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a big believer in free speech. I mean, as you know, and I'm going to use the Democrats' language.
Well, you have me here, so that's proof, social proof in itself. You know?
Exactly. Exactly. But as people of color, that's what Democrats call us, right?
Yeah.
It's interesting because, you know, when we say things that people don't agree with, our country has become a society that says, oh, well, you know what? I'm done. I'm walking away. I'm canceling this person. I'm silencing this person. I'm unfollowing, which is their prerogative to do so. I just think it distracts from the whole point of what makes our country great, which is to have these conversations that may be rooted in disagreement, but we still should be able to have them, you know?
Yeah, and you know, and I get it. It's human nature to not necessarily analyze the entire situation. We live in a world where it's like, you know, first impressions kind of make the impression because people don't have the time to get to know you and everything.
Yeah.
But, you know, most of the time when I've, you know, sat down and spoke with people and actually hear why I have some of the takes that I have, they're like, oh, okay, that makes sense, right? That's pragmatic, right? But I thought you had this worldview, but I'm able to kind of explain something. Yes, this is why I have this worldview, but this is how I arrived at that worldview, and I explain it. Like, I'll give you an example. One of the things I get a lot of slack for from conservatives is I tell guys, look, before you get married, you need to have a couple things in place. 35 years old, making 6 figures a year, 6 months to 12 months of savings, be in shape in the gym, and have sex with 50 women. Now, a lot of people are like, oh, whoa, man, you're telling people to go ahead and get laid. That's super anti-Christian, anti-Muslim, Abrahamic religion here. But when I explain to them, I'm like, look, I'm not saying that 50 number is a hard set number. What I am saying is that that'll put you in a position where you understand women, where you can navigate the dating marketplace from an informed perspective, and you won't get taken to the cleaners. Because the reason why I dispense this advice is because Christianity, religion, the church, Islam, the mosque, whatever it may be, all of these religious barriers that used to kind of keep relationships in check and ensure that people kind of stuck it out, these guardrails are gone. We don't have shame anymore. Feminism is at its peak. It's only going to get worse. You know, liberalism is, you know, kind of taking over, right? We're fighting back slowly but surely. But the reality is that when men get into long-term relationships and get married, we're the ones with all the skin in the game, not them. So I want guys to go into this situation like, look, I believe in a nuclear family. I think it's beautiful to have children. I think it's great to get married. I just want guys to go into that situation knowing this is what you're getting involved in.
Right.
This is what you can lose, and let's hedge let's you know, mitigate risk. Let's not get married with the state involved.
Yeah.
Let's do it in the church. Let's do it in the mosque. Let's, you know, remove incentives for women to divorce you and destroy your life and take your children from you. So that's why I have that that worldview where I just want you to understand women properly, so she can't leverage sex against you for compliance. Like, oh, babe, you're not going to get none unless you take out the trash.
Right.
Any guy that's in a situation like that is doomed to fail.
Yeah. So I get the message that you have for men.
Yeah. That's just one example, but there's, you know, that was the easiest one I could think of off the top of my head, that people misinterpret my advice.
Yeah. Well, listen, when you give advice, you know, people are going to criticize it, and not everybody's going to agree with everything, which is fine. And for the most part, I'm a guy that likes to judge people on the merits of what they're saying, not necessarily, you know, if I like them or not. And I think that's also something that lacks in our country is critical thinking skills.
Yes.
Is can I listen to someone who may have strong opinions, and can I take what I need and leave the rest that I don't agree with? You know, stuff like that. But more importantly, before we get to this shocking update from Democrats, because I'm not too sure everybody knows this, but Myron here used to actually work in HSI, right?
Yeah. So
Why don't you tell people what that is?
sure, yeah, I can explain it because DHS does a horrible job of marketing themselves. So I used to work for an agency called Homeland Security Investigations. And to kind of really make this make sense, so we'll start from the top. So you got Department of Homeland Security, which Kristi Noem is the head of right now. Then underneath that, you have ICE, or Immigration Customs Enforcement. And this is where things get confusing. So from ICE, it splits off into two different agencies. It splits off on one side to enforcement removal operations, and then to the other side, HSI, or Homeland Security Investigations. On the ERO side, these are the guys that are the deportation officers. They're actually taking these illegal aliens and deporting them physically. They're the ones bringing them in front of immigration judges, et cetera. Because in the immigration world, there's an entire different legislative system that deals with immigration law, or the INA. And then on the HSI side, these guys do the criminal investigations. These are the guys like myself where, you're investigating drug trafficking, you're investigating human trafficking, you're investigating terrorism, you're investigating gun running and all the other things of smuggling goods in and out. You're also enforcing immigration, people that are smuggling illegal aliens, people that are doing document benefit fraud, all of these different things. So ERO deals with the immigration side only, typically from an administrative standpoint. And then HSI deals with it from a criminal standpoint, and also branches into other violations because ICE used to be INS, Immigration Naturalization Service, and U.S. Customs Service. And what happened after 9/11 and the Department of Homeland Security Act, Bush combined them into one, and then that's how we got ICE. And then both authorities were absolved. But what this does, though, and a lot of people don't know this, HSI actually has almost more, I think they enforce more statutes than even the FBI. Because when you have both immigration and customs, you have an enormous amount of authority. And they can basically investigate anything. And that's what I did. For several years.
You were stationed where? You said you worked at the bottom of Texas, right?
I started
South
my career
Texas.
actually 3 hours from here, Laredo, Texas.
Wow.
And I remember, Austin always has a special place in my heart because I remember a guy I had been looking at got arrested in Travis County, and I drove all the way from Laredo to pick him up, and he had been a guy that was a part of a big conspiracy case I did. Wow. What's known as an OCF case, or Organized Crime Drug Enforcement Task Force investigation, approved by the DOJ. So they picked him up in Travis County, and I was excited because this was a guy that was a little higher up in the totem pole. But yeah, I started my career here in Laredo, and then I transferred to the Miami field office.
Wow, that is wonderful. That's crazy. I don't think a lot of people knew that about you, but obviously I knew.
People just think I'm like a racist, which that's true too, but I'm just kidding.
Yeah. Okay, so what I want to do is get into some of these clips that we were able to gather today that came out. Because of your expertise working with ICE, I think your perspective is unique. I think a lot of people are going to get value from that. And so where we're going to go first is this clip from Robert Garcia, Democrat out of California, which we know that's a thing in and of itself. And here he is announcing the Master ICE Tracker.
Mayor Bass, I'm grateful for your support and your leadership. Mayor Bass and I talked just last week, and she is committed to ensuring that every single moment of terror, of injustice that happens here in Los Angeles and really across the country is recorded, and that we take note of every instance where people are being harmed. And so today I want to announce that the House Oversight Committee Democrats are going to record and create an investigative unit here to ensure that in Los Angeles, we look into every single brutal misconduct that ICE is committing. And it's not just going to be in the House. I'm also excited to announce that the Senate and Senator Blumenthal has agreed that the Senate Permanent Subcommittee on Investigations will join the Oversight Democrats to ensure that this is being done in conjunction with both the House and the Senate.
Yeah, I mean, that is just pure evil if you ask me. So they basically want to legislate this, I guess, program to track, surveil, and essentially, I guess, legally dox ICE officers while they're just trying to do their constitutional duty. So I know you worked in the field at one point in time. So, like, how dangerous is this really for these officers?
Extremely dangerous. This is a violation of, I know the code off the top of my head, 18 U.S.C. 111, which is, if I'm not, you could check it real quick. I'm pretty sure it's 18 U.S.C. 111, which is impeding a law enforcement officer or assaulting a law enforcement during the course of their duties. This is a violation of that statute. And here's the other thing, too, I want to talk about when it comes to immigration, and I can kind of explain this to your audience. This is a Democrat-created problem. And what I mean by this is immigration has been a dirty word that many presidents, both Republican and Democrats, by the way, kind of didn't want to touch, because immigration is kind of like a catch-22. If you enforce it, you're looked at as a monster and evil. If you don't enforce it, you're looked at as like weak and not, creating strong borders.
Right.
And the problem is that for all these years, what presidents have typically done is they've kicked the can down the road when it comes to immigration. So what they'll do is they'll have Border Patrol agents stationed on the southwest border, catch, release. Sometimes they NTA them. Sometimes they give them an expedited removal and remove them from the country, which is the most ideal. But no president has done interior enforcement. And this is extremely important, because what Donald Trump basically did, and I commend him for this, right? I've been critical of Trump in the past, but I actually do think what he's doing when it comes to immigration is fantastic. And I don't think the American people appreciate it, might not understand it or appreciate it enough, because they might not understand how immigration works. So let me kind of quickly go through this. So when people come through the border, right, and they're apprehended, what ends up happening is they get something called an ER or an NTA. When Trump was in office the first term, they were getting the ER, expedited removal. The reason why this is good is because within 2 weeks that illegal aliens get deported right back to Mexico. They're not necessarily taking bed space like that. They're getting removed within a couple of days. And that obviously saves the taxpayer quite a bit of money, because it costs a lot of money to house these guys, especially in ICE facilities. When Biden came in, he kind of did away with that. And what he started doing was giving these guys notice to appears. And a notice to appear is exactly what it sounds like in a regular thing where you get a notice to appear. But in the immigration court, it's a bit different, because now you got an alien without status and they're allowed to come into the country and they're kind of in limbo.
Right. Just waiting for
a court date. But the problem with that is that the immigration court system is backed by like 5, 6, 7 years. And then what ends up happening with these people is they don't really have real documentation. They say they're going to one address, they move, they leave, they go in the wind. So by the time they're served, hey, you need to show up for immigration court, they're nowhere to be found.
Yeah.
Now, this happens all the time. And what happens is a lot of these aliens flee to these sanctuary cities. And for those, I know me and you know what it means, but for your audience, a sanctuary city is essentially a city where illegal aliens are able to live there, work, and not have to really worry about immigration officials, because these
avoid
cities,
accountability.
Absolutely. Because the entire state, governing body, whether the mayor, the police chief, et cetera, they typically will have we don't deal with immigration standpoint.
Right.
And not only do we not deal with immigration, we're not even going to assist the feds when they lodge a detainer against an illegal alien. We're not going to even assist when they go out to try to do a roundup and pick people up. This has been going on for decades.
Yeah.
So what's basically happened is we've been bleeding at the border. Then these people come in, they overstay, how long they're supposed to stay, or they just go out in the wind.
Yeah.
And that's just the illegal aliens. We're not even talking about all the document benefit fraud. We're not talking about all the people that come here on J1 visas, F1 visas, H1Bs, et cetera, that come in legally and then overstay their visa. There's millions of them as well. So
like what was his name? The superintendent out of Iowa.
Yeah, and that's how crazy. They arrested a cop also that didn't have status. So this is how comfortable people have gotten with coming here, whether legally or illegally, overstaying, not having status to be able to be here. Right. So what Trump is doing, where he's doing interior enforcement, this is unprecedented. I've never seen a president have the balls to actually go into these sanctuary cities, go into these major U.S. cities, and actually pick up people that have been here for years. Now, some people will say, oh, well, this is messed up. They've been here for 10, 20 years, 30 years. Why are you going to deport them now? They have family here. Well, how did you not figure out your immigration status during these decades that you're here? What's wrong with you? But that goes to show how complacent and entitled a lot of these illegal aliens are, where they feel like, oh, I made it in here, I'm here, I don't deserve to be deported. President Trump's the first president to actually enforce immigration, not just from a border standpoint, but more namely a interior standpoint, which is one of the big problems. And last thing I'll say here and land the plane, a lot of people say, oh, well, Obama deported more illegal aliens than Trump. Well, we need to be able to analyze that data and realize that when Democrats are in office, more aliens try to cross into the border because they got a better chance.
Yeah.
So by nature of doing that, they're going to get apprehended more and sent back more because they're trying to come in more.
Yeah.
But with Donald Trump, yes, the deportations might be fewer, but he closed the border and he's doing interior enforcement. It's not as easy to catch illegal aliens in the interior because of all the backlash you're getting, as we're seeing now with these states. But it's the first time that we've been able to do it, so that's why they're getting so much pushback. But this is absolutely ridiculous that they're trying to do this in California. It's why it's a failed state. And this is 100% a crime.
That's why we moved.
Yeah, exactly. This is a violation of 18 U.S.C. 101, which is the criminal code. So yeah, this is totally illegal what they're trying to do.
Yeah. I would actually add on for everybody watching. I think, number one, Democrats do this because, one, they see it as a way to make more money, because we know that's what they love to do. There's ways to fund the programs. You know, think of USAID for a second to prove my point. How many spouses or family members were on the board of directors of these NGOs? That's why they were losing their mind over it, right? But secondly, they continue to put illegal aliens over the safety of American citizens. No doubt about that. Now, let me show you this clip.
I also think it's political posturing.
Okay.
Because they know what they're doing. Also, like, there's never going to be able to actually get away with this and do it.
Right.
But they're doing it so that their constituents, like, oh, look, they're standing up for us, blah, blah. But I think it's political posturing.
Yeah. Well, they program their base to think that what they're doing is from a place of compassion. But I would argue that let's even follow that logic.
Sure.
But then that means you're putting compassion over law and order.
Absolutely.
And that's the fatal mistake.
Absolutely.
And when I say fatal, that is reality. How many American citizens have been murdered by illegal aliens?
Yeah, and we get the other thing too, because leftists, right? I watch a lot of leftist media to see the other perspective. A lot of them make the argument, well, look, only a minority of illegal aliens are actually criminals and committing crimes, et cetera, blah, blah, blah. Fair. You want to talk about them not being violent criminals, the majority of them come here, work hard, just put their nose down, whatever. That might be true. But the reality is every single person that's here illegally is a criminal. Yeah. According to 8 USC 1325. And then if they've been deported before, that's actually a felony under 1326. So people could sit there and say what they want to say, and oh, they're not actually really criminals, blah, blah. Technically, if they're here illegally, they are, 100%.
Well, not according to Jasmine Crockett.
Of course not. Yeah, that idiot. Yeah, the worst. Oh, man.
Yeah, because crime, if you commit a crime, that doesn't make you a criminal. That's what they say. All right, why don't we go to this clip from Todd Lyons. Obviously, he's in charge of ICE, technically, right? They still have him as acting, which is interesting. But anyways, here's his reaction to this this master ICE tracker.
So what is your message for Congressman Garcia? And I guess in a bigger sense, this is starting, it's going to come to a head very soon. Not just from those on the street and the members of ICE, but members of government in a significant way on big positions. Go ahead.
No, Bill, I think what I'd say to him is the fact that that he wants to put a target on ICE agents' back, so be it. But he shouldn't hide behind the fact that he wants to make his community safe. We've already seen from the Dallas shooting that apps like those are like giving a map to a hitman. So he's not protecting his community. He's putting the men and women in law enforcement at risk. Do they track the DEA? Do they track the FBI? They don't. So I really wish elected officials would talk to us and see exactly who we're arresting, see the criminal history, see the public safety stats we're throwing out. But the men and women of ICE are being targeted for just doing their law enforcement mission, and it's coming from elected officials, and it has to stop.
Yeah, he was being polite about it. That's absolutely ridiculous that they want to go ahead and have this ICE app and put agents in danger. And here's the other thing too. A lot of other agencies are out there with HSI. It's not just HSI and ERO, right, that are doing this. Customs is out there, Border Patrol's out there. That's why you see these guys with green uniforms. Since they've been able to close off the border, they've moved thousands. They moved thousands of Border Patrol agents into the interior to do this enforcement. So this is the FBI agents are out there, ATF. This is like a all hands on deck operation where every single representative from all the agencies are out there. So this isn't just a problem for ICE, but it's a problem for all federal law enforcement. Yeah. And a marshal got shot, got involved in a shooting like yesterday, if I'm not mistaken, right? He got run over by a car or something like that.
Yeah. So they said that he was being rammed, or the illegal alien was ramming them off the road. And then one of the marshals or the sheriffs that was responding, the law enforcement officer, and let me just say this because we talk about this every day on the show. And what happens is competing stories. So you have what ICE says, Fox News, Newsmax, right-leaning media. And then you have CNN, MSDNC, all these people. And it's always like so far apart. According to the left, they say that the law enforcement officer, I guess, was chasing, his gun hit some window and it ricocheted or it went off. And that's how
interesting.
Yeah, the ICE agent was, or the U.S. Marshal was shot in his hand. And then others say on the right, or according to ICE, that's not what happened. What happened was in the process of trying to apprehend this guy, they were, I guess, their life was threatened, and so they shot back. But the
I
point,
think he tried to run him over with a car, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, exactly. So, but the point is that this is my whole thing. Okay, with the amount of mass deportations that the president wants, I understand ICE agents are not going to be perfect, especially with them with these numbers of people that are joining ICE for the very first time, right? I mean,
Yeah,
these are not
they're
people.
doing a big hiring they're doing a big hiring. They're trying to bring people in from other agencies. And then also, there's a lot of barriers they got to fight, because like enforcing immigration on the southwest border is one thing, but doing it in interior cities where you got to find these guys, locate these guys, bed them down, a lot of the times when you catch one illegal alien, you catch like 10 others that you had no idea about them. You got to fingerprint all of them. You got to process them, move them out. So it's a very laborious task to do this in the interior. And then on top of that, you got to deal with state legislators like these clowns saying, we're not going to assist you. We're not going to do X, Y, Z. Oh, we're going to fight you. And then you got protesters. So credit to the Trump administration for actually doing this, because no other administration had the balls to do interior enforcement.
Right. Yeah, that's a huge difference between Obama. He got to deport people at the border.
Absolutely.
Not inside.
Fake numbers.
Yeah.
It's like botting on streaming.
Exactly. So this is the clip I want to go to, because you actually touched on it, which was, okay, so you already have illegal aliens resisting, and they're being taught to resist. They're being instructed to resist, because this is what we hear from people like Gavin Newsom and LA Mayor Karen Bass. And I know people out there are going to send me an email about saying Newsom, but guys, he is scum. The way he's running the state of California is as bad as you can get, besides Tim Walz, I guess. But anyways, watch this clip. This is an elected official. He's following ICE officers, and then he gets surprised when ICE officers get out of the vehicle and are like, what are you doing? You know? Watch this.
I'm State Representative Han Nguyen. I'm State Representative Han Nguyen.
These guys are telling us to stop following.
I'm State Representative Han Nguyen.
They're U.S. Customs and Border Patrol.
I'm State Representative Han
There's
Nguyen.
3 agents behind us. Why is my window not working?
I'm State Representative Han Nguyen.
Somehow they're able to open my windows. These people there's 3 officers in front of us, 3
I'm
officers
State
behind us.
Representative Han Nguyen.
He has,
I'm State Representative Han Nguyen.
There's 3
I'm
officers
State
behind us.
Representative Han Nguyen.
Okay, I'm gonna keep following this guy. This other car behind us.
They just put a gun.
Yeah, they just had a gun. We're at Montrose and Kimball now, telling us to stop following them. I guess the other car behind me was following me. I didn't realize, but now we're at Montrose.
This is wild.
Yeah, no, it's
Okay, we're
the
heading
fact that these
we're
are
heading west on
politicians doing
Montrose
this,
from Kimball.
like, they're breaking the law right now.
Yeah, I mean,
They're
I
100%
want
breaking
people.
the law.
Let me go right here. Let me ask you guys a question. Put this in the chat. What do you think is going to happen if you were to follow your local police officer? Okay, if you got in your car and you started following them around town, what do you think they are going to do? Right? I mean, it's just crazy. It's against the law, right?
Yeah, 100% that's against the law. Because the thing is also that's very important. Why? Because people might be wondering, well, Myron, why are these ICE agents, or why these guys in general were CBP officers, probably from OFO, Office of Field Operations. And I can explain all that too if you want me to. But the reason why this is a problem, right? People are saying, oh, well, we want more transparency. Why can't we follow them? Blah, blah, blah. Since they're doing this immigration surge and they're picking up a lot of these illegal aliens, what they're doing is they have to transport these illegal aliens to other locations, right? Mm-hmm. For processing and everything else like this. A lot of this stuff is going to be off-site locations, right? Because they don't want that being disclosed, because they might not have this security where they're contracting with a company to protect it. They don't have what's called the Federal Protective Service there, potentially, because FPS is also stretched thin. They're the ones that are in charge of protecting all federal buildings. So a lot of this stuff is being done at off-sites. So from an operational or OPSEC perspective, these guys following them and seeing where they go, who they're picking up, how they're conducting operations, this is a huge security threat for them.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
And then with all the protests going on or whatever, and I've actually seen videos where, sometimes they come up to the people and say, look, we're going to give you a warning. If you keep following us, we're going to arrest you. Right. And I've seen them do that plenty of times. But yeah, this is 100% illegal.
Yeah. Well, why do you think Democrats continue to encourage it?
I think they're doing it for political clout, right? Saying like, look, I care so much. I'm over here following these ICE agents. I think what they're doing is wrong, blah, blah, blah. When I think in reality, they really can't do too much. But I think they're doing this to kind of appease their low IQ constituents, thinking that, them as state representatives or state officials have any say when it comes to immigration matters. But the reality is that the state has absolutely zero Title VIII authority under the INA. So, they can sit there, they can follow, they can do whatever they want to do, but they can't stop them.
Yeah, yeah.
And I would argue, I hope the Department of Justice starts going after some of these individuals, especially these people that are like elected officials threatening to, dox ICE agents, et cetera, because it's going to take an agent getting shot and killed.
Right.
I hope it doesn't get to that point, but that's what it might take. That's what it might take for the DOJ to start taking this more seriously and arresting all these guys for 111.
Yeah. Yeah. I want to take a moment right now, if we could, to actually bring up some of the laws. And in order to do so, I want to use this browser called Comment. This is something that's been created by Perplexity.ai.
Oh, nice.
And they have a partnership with Rumble. So if you were to download this browser, you get 1 month free of Rumble Premium, which is important because when I go live on Fridays, you need Rumble Premium to actually participate in that live stream. At any rate, this browser is pretty cool because if you're used to being on your phone all day long, shopping, sending emails, doing research, I love how this browser operates. It's like a personal assistant in your pocket. Now, the link to this browser for you to download is in the description below and in the chat as well. But I asked you because I know you worked for ICE here. So let me just ask this question.
Absolutely.
You were referencing which law was it?
Okay, so with the impeding officers, 18 USC?
Impeding.
Or you just put 18 US. Okay, yeah, because it'll,
Okay,
it's a bunch of, 18
US.
USC, and then 111.
Okay.
I'm almost certain that's a statute for impeding and or assaulting federal officers.
Give me, let's say, give me the.
Oh no, if you just hit it, it'll bring you to Cornell.
Okay.
It should bring you to Cornell.
Here we go.
law.
Here we go. Let's just do that. There we go. Okay.
Yeah, assaulting, resisting, and or impeding certain. Yep, there you go.
There it is.
Cornell
Okay.
white thing at the top.
Makes it a federal crime to forcibly, let me zoom in for the people because I'm blind too, guys. What is it? Makes it a federal crime
Yeah, I
to
can
forcibly
see it.
assault, resist, oppose, impede, intimidate, or interfere with certain federal officers or employees while they're engaged in their official duties or because of their official status.
Bam, there you go.
That's exactly what we just saw in that video.
Exactly. It's
Okay.
100% impeding.
What? Okay, you guys want to see an
And
example?
I've actually, the reason why I know this so well is because I've actually arrested people for this before.
Okay, got it. Yeah,
Back in the day.
I have a clip that you're gonna. This is crazy. So, you already have these elected officials following these ICE officials, right? And so we just read it to you. And the cool thing about this browser, before we move on, let's say because this is the type of person I am, can you email me the summary of this law to truth@DeVoryDarkins.com. And of course, you got to connect your email. All right. And I spelled my name wrong, so I think it will fail. But at any rate, this acts as a personal assistant. It'll send a summary of what we just looked up this law to your email address. And so you don't have to manually do it, or you can send it to anybody. Let's say you have a business or maybe your colleagues or something. This is another way to integrate in your workflow. I think it's pretty cool.
No, it's great. I've used it before. And guys, platforms like this that support Rumble, you need to support them because Rumble supports free speech, right? We don't know how much longer we have on a lot of these mainstream platforms. You know, you guys know that we've been censored and, you know, ostracized from a lot of these big platforms as conservatives. So, you know, you got to support Rumble, got to support the companies that support us.
Yeah, exactly. So I just told it to correct my email. There it is. Thank you for the correction. I hope you dropped the email. Boom, 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 boom. Yes, send it, please. Thank you. And there we go. All right. So, guys, if you guys want to download this browser for yourself, it's in the description below. All right. Let's go back to this clip I want to show you, which I think is just outrageous. So you already had, like I said, elected officials chasing after ICE officers.
Yeah.
This clip here is the hospital and their employees calling a tow truck company to tow the ICE agent's vehicle.
Outside the hospital here where Richard L.A. is being treated after U.S. Marshals shot him in the arm earlier today, ICE is getting their vehicle towed. Whose vehicle is that?
Take that shit.
The hospital called you? Who called you? Jeez. Hospital called the tow truck driver. He said he's getting paid to tow this ICE vehicle away.
You've been kidnapped for Clark. Pedophile. Another one out front too, a blue one.
Oh, really? Oh, so you're towing two vehicles today?
It's wild.
Yeah.
All those cameras see, hey, stop killing little kids. Stop killing innocent people. This is a kidnapper. Get this piece of shit out of here.
wild.
That's absolutely nuts. I mean, I would say, because when I used to be on the job, right, you get assigned a government vehicle. I would always put a placard says ICE official business or HSI official business. But the fact that, because I'm sure I mean, it's clearly a law enforcement vehicle. The fact that they still towed it anyway, like, dude, can't believe that.
They're celebrating it.
Yeah, they're celebrating it. And it's like, I assume, I'm going to assume here, what's going on is they're probably in the hospital, right? Potentially trying to interview the suspect or whatever. Maybe they got involved in a shooting because he's probably, he's technically under their authority. He's under their custody.
He's part of the shooting that we were just talking about earlier.
He got shot. Obviously, they're going to charge him, but they have to. Someone has to be there because I've brought prisoners to the hospital too. You're responsible for that prisoner. You have to be there with them the whole time. So for them to tow that car, 100% illegal because they have to be there. Okay. So that tow truck driver can, I hope the Department of Justice does something about that. You got to make an example of people like that.
You think the DOJ will do something about it?
I hope they do. And I think Pam Bondi.
You hope, but do you believe?
Because here's the thing, this kind of reminds me of the Tesla stuff. Remember earlier in the year when Teslas were getting firebombed in every blue city?
Yeah.
And Cash and Pam basically were like, we're going to send a message. We're going to start arresting all these people for terrorism. I hope it doesn't get to that point where things are getting blown up for them to take action. I think Pam Bondi, Kristi Noem, the FBI, HSI need to start going after these people aggressively, because that's the only way you're going to teach them. Like what went down on Canal Street. They literally were going nuts on Canal Street with these guys.
But Myron, if you do that, you're weaponizing the federal government.
Of course. You're weaponizing them. The Gestapo. That's what all the liberals call ICE and federal law enforcement, the Gestapo or fascists or, whatever.
Yeah. So you'll love this next clip. This is Dan Goldman. He is a representative, okay? This guy is actually trying to get NYPD to arrest ICE officers.
I sent a letter last week to NYPD Commissioner Jessica Tisch to warn her about what is likely coming to New York City, because we've seen it around the country.
Amid increased immigration enforcement by the Trump administration, some local elected officials are asking the NYPD to arrest or even charge federal agents who they say are detaining people illegally.
A couple of weeks ago, a woman named Monica came to my office, fled to my office across the street with her two young children after she was assaulted by an ICE officer in this building.
Like this case from a few weeks ago when a woman was seen on camera being shoved to the ground at 26 Federal Plaza.
She hit the back of her head. She had a huge bump on her head. She had to go to the hospital.
The Department of Homeland Security initially suspended the agent with Immigration and Customs Enforcement, but later reinstated him. Democratic Congressman Dan Goldman says the ICE agents acted illegally. In a letter, Goldman asked Police Commissioner Jessica Tisch to arrest and even charge federal agents who break New York's laws, saying, quote,
okay. I can't.
Yeah, that lady put her hands. Yeah, that lady put her hands on him. Yeah. He's an ICE ERO guy, which whenever you see it showed a little snippet of the badge, whenever it says ICE and says officer, that guy's from ERO. If it says Homeland Security Investigations and Special Agent, that guy's from HSI. So, but all of these guys, it's all hands on deck, and they're picking these guys up from the immigration court. Yeah, I mean, I think it's more political posturing. New York City has been one of the most egregious sanctuary cities by far. We're talking about free hotels during the Biden administration. Yeah. I remember when I would when Border Patrol would catch illegal aliens and they call it HSI to respond and take over the criminal investigation, one of the questions I always used to ask the aliens, let's say you catch a driver with like 20 aliens in a semi truck, and you got one or two drivers that were driving them with 20 in the back. I would always ask all the illegal aliens I was interviewing, where were you going? And 9 times out of 10, they were always going to some type of blue city as their final destination. Yeah. And that, how much they pay to their smuggler, it's all contingent about where they're trying to go. But a lot of times the final destination was New York City, was LA, was Austin, Texas, was like these cities that tend to lean a little bit more left. Yeah. And there's obviously a bunch of Denver. There was a reason for that from an immigration standpoint, because they know it's not going to be enforced.
Yeah. I just don't understand how these officials are calling for the police department to arrest a federal agent. I mean, that already sounds, the math doesn't add up on that. That's number one.
Yeah, it's illegal.
Yeah, it's illegal. But number two, in those examples I showed you, they're clearly impeding those officials from doing their jobs.
Yeah.
I just don't understand, I guess, why do people eat up this propaganda so much? Because that's exactly what it is.
Yeah, look, let me be clear about this. Do ICE agents and HSI and federal agents make mistakes when they're conducting arrests? Of course. No one's ever perfect, right? People, might get in physical altercations here. Typically, in law enforcement, they teach you if someone, has their use of force here, you got to get your use of force one above them because you always have to have the tactical advantage. They teach you this in every law enforcement academy in the country. The reason why this is, such a big problem is that we've never enforced immigration before. And this is a new concept to a lot of people. And for a lot of these blue cities, they haven't seen ICE in probably ever, right? Because ICE has been, is what, like 20 years old? Like in a lot of these blue cities, they've probably never even seen ICE agents actually conduct immigration enforcement because they've had their hands tied for so long under different administrations. So for them, it's a shock thing, but it's no different than a local officer, conducting investigations and arresting people for state statutes. It's just that the concept of immigration is so foreign to people. I mean, if you polled most Americans, they would probably tell you like, oh yeah, being here illegally isn't a crime, when in reality it is.
Well, why don't you poll people who came here legally and see what their answers are?
Oh yeah, they're going to say they're definitely here illegally. Yeah, because they're going to get pissed. Yeah, like the people that did it right are always going to get mad. Like my parents are mad when they see these illegal aliens here, like abusing the system when they had to go the hard way. Yeah. So, it's just a foreign concept for so many people, and immigration's been a topic that's been taboo and not enforced for so long that like now that the floodgates are open and they're actually doing this, especially in sanctuary cities, it's like they're getting punched in the face for the first time.
Yeah.
Right. They call themselves boxers, but they're getting punched in the face for the first time. And they don't know how to react.
Exactly. Let's read some chats really quickly here, and then we'll move on to a couple of more topics I definitely want to get your opinion on.
Sure.
Let's see here. So, here's a good one. You ready? You ready for a good laugh?
Yeah.
So far, Myron hasn't said anything demeaning.
Oh, that's coming soon. Don't worry. Once we start talking about Israel.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah, I know. Okay, let's see. Martial law should be applied. Self-defense is what I seen. Miss Thing put her hands on him. What did she think was going to happen? That agent should have never been suspended, period. If anything, she should have been arrested.
Yeah, I could explain what's going to happen. More than likely, he's going to get what's called an OPR investigation. So that OPR, Office of Professional Responsibility, for ICE, they're the ones that, anytime something happens like this, an allegation of misconduct, they have to open a case and they're probably going to investigate him from OPR. But I think he's probably going to get cleared because in the footage, like she clearly put his hands on him. He's telling her, he's giving her commands in Spanish, like, hey, we're going, blah, 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 get out the way. And she still wouldn't move. So, it is what it is.
Yeah. Now I'm on Rumble. Let's see here. Here's a question for you. What happened to your collab with Crowder yesterday? You want to answer that?
We shot it yesterday. It'll come out hopefully in a week or two. It was great. We discussed a lot of different things. But yeah, it wasn't live. It was pre-recorded. So he'll drop that probably in a few weeks. Shout out to Steven Crowder.
Yeah, this is Colts Walker. This is a good opportunity for people to see the professional side of Myron outside of the viral clips.
Yeah, people, it's crazy because sometimes I'll start talking about this stuff and people are like literally shocked. Like, what?
Yeah.
You know all this stuff about this topic? Yeah, I just, I do have
he
a
actually
true
worked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is like many different things, man. I could talk at length about drug trafficking, how it works, human smuggling, how it works, the difference between human smuggling and human trafficking. A lot of people conflate the two and they're completely different. Terrorism, any of that stuff, how other agencies work. I had very close friends that worked for every single one of the agencies with FBI, ATF, DEA. But yeah, this is one of my, because I loved my job when I was on there. It was something actually, I didn't want to leave the government.
Yeah.
It's just that like, they're like, hey, you got to pick one. You want to be an influencer, or you want to be a podcaster, or you want to be an agent. So it is what it is.
It's interesting because I have this belief that when you're working for the government or the military, that usually the good people get out, because they see the writing on the wall.
Yeah. The government, the thing with the government is, a lot of the times they go private sector because with the federal government, you do it for the love of the job, right?
Exactly.
Like you're not, even the cream of the crop government employees are barely cracking six figures, right?
Yeah.
Or making in the mid to low six figures. So a lot of times if you have that, intelligence, that resourcefulness, a lot of times they want to go private sector. So what a lot of people actually do, one of the plays a lot of agents do is like they'll be an agent for 10, 20 years and then, start a security company or start a consulting company or start a, or if they're a forensic agent, they'll go and work for a computer company if they're a certified forensic agent. So they transition into these other careers after pretty easily.
Yeah.
Because the private sector pays way more than the government sector.
Exactly. No question. And they deserve it. I mean, if you go start your own company, you're going to be successful, I would imagine. So you definitely.
Oh, yeah. I mean, what I used to make, I was making when I left, I was a GS-13 for all my government employees out there. I was a GS-13 step 3. So I was bringing in the Miami locality. So with the cola there, I was bringing in about 120, 130K per year. I mean, that's, you make way more than that as an entrepreneur.
Right. Exactly. Okay. I just looking at a couple more comments and then we'll just move on here. Grifters. Okay. Sure. I wonder if they even know a definition of that. Probably not.
Grifters for telling the truth about this topic. Okay, that makes sense.
Let's see here. Low-level politicians trying to be relevant for personal gain. That's exactly what I think.
That's what I think too. A lot of it is like, political posturing and pretending to care. Yeah. Oh, we're going to do something about this. But the reality is they can't.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so why don't we move on here to your stance of the Israel and Hamas war. So
sure,
I know you guys are going to lose it. So let's go ahead and get it out the way now.
Yeah, sure.
Let me just ask you this question, though, just to be very direct and clear.
Sure.
Because I know when we first did this, I asked you, was it a positive thing that they had this peace agreement and the hostages came home? I believe you agreed with that. Okay, but it's so funny how things changed since then, right?
Yeah.
So where do you think this is going? That's my main question. At this point, what do you think is going to happen for the rest of the year?
Yeah. So, I think when we last discussed it, I said I didn't think the ceasefire was going to hold too well. And, we've seen Israel violate it a bunch of different times. The good news is the majority of the bombing and the killing has stopped to a degree. So it's not as bad as it was before, but as expected, right? The Israelis are, reneging, saying, oh, well, you didn't do this, you didn't do that. I know the latest thing. One of the chief complaints that the Israelis have been using is they're saying, well, you didn't give us all the corpses back. And then Hamas countered like, look, we can't give them back to you because a lot of them are buried under the rubble, right? Which is interesting because, I've been saying this for years that Israel's actually responsible for killing a lot of their own hostages because of these airstrikes. So, Hamas doesn't have the capability of blowing buildings up and having people buried under, thousands of pounds of rubble or tons of rubble. So that's kind of what it is. And I'm not saying this to say like, oh yeah, Hamas is the better person in this individual in this situation, but I do think it's important to note that the indiscriminate bombing that Israel was conducting absolutely killed some of their own hostages that they claimed that they wanted to protect because their bodies are in the rubble now. And and what Israel's doing is they're using that as an excuse to say, oh, well, you're not committing to your portion of the deal. We're going to start attacking you again because you didn't fulfill. And the Israelis do this all the time. They negotiate in bad faith. They say, okay, we need it just like this. And they always insert some type of poison pill into the deal to mess things up. They did this with Iran. They did it just now with we need all the corpses back of the hostages. And this gives them the way to kind of weasel their way out the situation, continue warfare.
Well, so let me ask you this then. What about the stories of Hamas also shooting people and killing people that were in Gaza, the Palestinians?
Yes.
What is your reaction to that?
Sure. So with a lot of these individuals that were being killed, a lot of them were cooperating with the Israeli government, whether through the IDF, the Unit 8200, Mossad, one of their different intelligence components. There's also a rival faction with with Hamas of another clan of Palestinians that some people claim that they're paid by the Israelis, to agitate and steal the food from the trucks, whatever. I'm not 100% sure about that, but what I will speak to is a lot of the people that have been killed have been identified as collaborators and or rival factions to Hamas.
Okay.
So that's what's been going on. Of course, I don't condone violence. I think it's atrocious what's happening regardless. But I do think they're looking at it like, well, you cooperating with the Israelis led to a lot of these people dying, et cetera. That's probably how they're justifying it. Because as they're killing these people, there's like hundreds of people, watching and cheering and stuff like that, which is absolutely nuts.
So I'm going to ask you again, because I asked you the first time. You have people who obviously are pro-Israel, and then you have people who are anti-Israel. Mm-hmm. Where is the common ground located? Where is it that both of these groups do have they do agree on something?
So the pro-Israel crowd and the anti-Israel crowd, what do we agree on? Oh man,
it's a good question.
Yeah, no. It's a good question. I think both parties want peace in the region to some degree.
Yeah.
But I think Israelis are content with the fact that if it never comes, it doesn't matter. Does that make sense? Because they have the leverage, right? They occupy the land. They have the use of force superiority.
No, just for clarity purposes, when you say Israelis, you talking the Israeli government?
Yeah, the Israeli
people
government.
Of Israel?
The Israeli government, and a lot of people agree with the Israeli government.
Okay.
A lot of them like don't really care about Gaza or the West Bank or anything else like that. They did a poll, like something like 70 to 80% of Israelis like didn't care about what was going on in Gaza. Right? They looked at it like, oh well, we want the war to end, not because kids are dying, rather we want our hostages back. But now if Israel restarts their bombing campaign, they're not going to care whatsoever because they got their hostages back out alive.
Yeah. I think no matter where you stand on this issue, I would imagine it's a good thing to hear. It's something that you said earlier, which is to a large degree, the bombing has,
seceded.
So I think that's hostages were returned, or the ones that could be.
Yeah. And I want to say this too, because like people always think like I'm just sitting here like, oh yeah, screw the Israelis. One of the things I actually went viral for one time was like when I saw people ripping the posters off of the hostages in major cities all across the United States, I was like, this is unacceptable. Like, you can't sit there and say, yo, they're bombing and killing innocent children, but at the same time ripping down posters of innocent people that are Israeli. Like my thing is I value all life, right? I think
who
Israeli
was
or
doing
Palestinian.
Exactly?
A lot of liberals in major cities were like taking videos of themselves ripping the posters off, boards and signs and stores all over places like New York, Denver, et cetera, that were more pro-Palestine. But I think that rhetoric, that behavior is literally what fuels a lot of the problems. Like my thing is I value both sides of life. It's just that, I can say pretty confidently now at this point that the Israelis don't value Palestinian life though, unfortunately.
So then that brings me to this question, because isn't it interesting? And, I'm not the one who brought this idea up. It was Charlie Kirk who wrote this long letter and touched on the fact that Gen Z conservatives are not as supportive of Israel as older people are, like millennials, like myself, right? We grew up in a time where my wife and I, we've been watching the 9/11 freaking documentary on repeat the last week. We just can't
with
help
Tucker?
it. No, just the ones on YouTube and Netflix.
I'm going to send you a really good one.
Back.
I'll send you a really good one. It's from Ryan Dawson. It's The Empire en Masse. I'll send you. It covers, because there are three main components. I won't go into it too much unless you want to have this discussion. Israeli intelligence, American intelligence, and Saudi Arabian intelligence working in tandem together to orchestrate 9/11.
Yeah. So, before we get to that, let me just say this. So you have Gen Z conservatives who don't support Israel as much as millennials and boomers.
Our generation, yeah. We're the mess ups.
Okay, there you go. And then Gen Z on the left are out there screaming free Palestine. They were assaulting people at universities, etc. You had all these issues there. I just find it interesting how both sides of Gen Z is like, there's a disconnect from what's happening over there, if that makes sense.
No, it makes perfect sense. I can explain that too.
Yeah, please explain that.
Sure.
That component.
So, and thank you for allowing me the platform to kind of explain this to your audience. So, when it comes to criticism of Israel, the right and the left, right, and I think genuinely this is the only topic that people on both the far left and on the far right agree on, is the problem when it comes to Israel and lobbying and control of American foreign policy. So we'll start with the far left. The far left has issues because they look at Israel as a genocidal, ethno-apartheid state that is illegally occupying Palestinians. The far right looks at it like, and also killing kids. The far right also condemn them for killing kids, but they dislike Israel more from a nationalistic perspective where they're subverting our government for the interests of a foreign nation.
Yeah, like our government should be more focused on what's happening here in our country.
Precisely.
Not over there. Got it.
Precisely. And they don't like that Zionist influence within our government and having all the power and levers they have, not just in politics, but in big tech and finance and all these other, what I call critical infrastructure points in American society. So they criticize it from that perspective. But both of them have come to the same conclusion that Israel is problematic in general. Now, we can kind of go to our generation because I know exactly what you're talking about when you said that. We grew up in the 9/11 era. We grew up in the Bush, they hate us because of our freedoms. We grew up in the Bin Laden did it era. We grew up in the Afghanistan. All these other guys are, the axis of evil. Right. We grew up with all that terrorist propaganda, 9/11 propaganda. But the younger people that were born after 9/11, they didn't have to endure that propaganda. So they're able to look at the war on terror with clean, fresh, objective eyes, unlike us. Because me and you probably both remember where we were on 9/11 when 9/11 happened.
Yeah.
These people might not even have been alive, so they're able to look at it with a fresh set of eyes and they're like, wait, this doesn't add up. And then to make it go even
does something to you when you saw it when you were a kid.
It's
an emotional impact.
I have not seen, the United States has not been that united. I haven't seen it since, right? After 9/11.
Yeah,
I'll never forget.
point.
There was a famous clip where George Bush, days after 9/11, is at Ground Zero. And he has like a megaphone. And he's talking to the workers there, firefighters, construction workers, police, et cetera, trying to find people in the rubble. And someone in the back screamed, we can't hear you. And he said, oh, don't worry. You can't hear me, but pretty soon, whoever did this is going to hear all of us. And he got like a huge wave of applause and everything else like that. And that was kind of the beginning of this war on terror, because shortly thereafter that we invaded Iraq under the pretense of anthrax and how that's all a scam or whatever, but that's a whole other conversation. But the young people didn't get indoctrinated by all that propaganda. And then on top of that, another thing that the young people have that me and you didn't when we were growing up is they have alternative media, right?
Exactly.
They have access to YouTube, Instagram, these different platforms push this stuff out. And what I would say, I think one of the biggest tools that radicalized and or woke a lot of people up to this political issue was TikTok. So when it comes to TikTok, there's two main things that happened. In November of 2023, a letter called A Letter to America went viral all over TikTok. And
who wrote this letter?
It was written by Osama bin Laden.
Okay.
And in that letter, Osama does a good job of outlining all of his grievances with the West, right? The foreign policy that destroyed Iraq, sanctions that are killing kids, supporting Israel as they cause wars all across the Middle East and destabilize the Muslim world. He went through line by line with all of his provinces and, with all of his grievances, and a lot of it tied back to Israel. And this letter went viral on TikTok. Now, for the millennials out there that didn't hear about this, the reason why we don't know about it is because mainstream media controlled the narrative back then.
Yeah, absolutely.
And their excuse was, we can't put this letter out because we don't know if sleeper cells are active in America that this letter is going to speak to, so we don't want to put it out. That was the excuse they used. But what ended up happening was, we got a bunch of these neoconservatives, right, that have Israeli citizenship or might be Jewish or whatever it may be, that were kind of the architects of the Iraq war. And their main goal was to try to get us in this war, whether it's, John Bolton, Bill Kristol, Robert Kagan, Judith Miller, Paul Wolfowitz, Daniel Pearl, Douglas Feith, all these guys were, had a hand in getting us into war with 9/11 and didn't want anything to obstruct that. Now, 20 years later, this thing goes viral and they shut it down again. And that woke a lot of people up and red pilled them on this topic. And then the other thing also that I think was huge in awakening people was Twitter. So there's three main things that I would say are responsible for this, three trigger points. Number one was Elon Musk's purchase of Twitter.
Of course.
Because once he made it a more free speech platform, you couldn't avoid seeing kids getting bombed every single day on Twitter. And that's for the political side. Now, for those that aren't as politically savvy that don't use X, a lot of people use TikTok. What are they seeing on TikTok?
Right.
They're seeing, overwhelming videos that are more pro-Palestine showing dead kids as well, right, on TikTok. And TikTok was so pro-Palestine that Jonathan Greenblatt of the ADL had like an emergency meeting in Israel saying, look, we have an anti-Semitism problem in America, and it's a youth problem. It's a demographic age problem. We need to get control of TikTok. Because at the time, they had not reeled it in. So, and just to give a quick little background on TikTok so people really understand, because I want them to really take this in. Back in August of 2020, when Donald Trump was president, they were talking about shutting down TikTok for the purpose of it being a Chinese spyware app that was collecting intelligence on us.
Yes.
And there was talk about it. They were talking about passing it, getting a bill through, but it never went through. When Donald Trump was campaigning in 2024, he relied heavily upon TikTok to grow. And one of his biggest endorsers, Charlie Kirk, was huge on TikTok.
Yeah, of course.
Also was endorsing Trump.
Yeah.
So when Trump got into office, the Zionist lobby was like, we need to get rid of TikTok. This is a problem. Him, on the other hand, with Charlie Kirk and how it led to him, because he relied a lot on social media to get elected.
Of course, yeah.
He said, look, we got to find a way to keep TikTok open, but we'll go ahead and make some changes. So TikTok shut down right after he got sworn in for like a day or two. And then when it came back, you couldn't put in watermelon emojis or say pre-Palestine or say from the river to the sea. All that stuff was banned, but that wasn't good enough. So they pushed and they kept signing paperwork saying, look, we're going to, continue resolution. We're going to keep TikTok up until an American company buys it and kind of takes it from the grasps of the Chinese. Fast forward to a couple of weeks ago, Larry Ellison picks it up. Who's Larry Ellison? Basically, a tech guy, technocrat, Jewish, billionaire, hardcore Zionist, donates millions to the IDF, I think one of their biggest donors. And then TikTok now is, if you type in AIPAC, if you post certain content that's pro-Palestine, it gets banned, right? And the head of trust and safety at TikTok, or one of them, was a former Unit 8200 IDF soldier as well, a female. So what we're seeing now is...
You're making some interesting points, Myron.
Yeah, so October 7th, so we got Elon Musk purchasing Twitter. That was a big trigger point.
Yeah.
We have the explosion of the Bin Laden letter in November of 2023 and TikTok in general being pro-Palestine. And then we have what actually happened on October 7th where, we all witnessed the genocide in 4K pretty much. Right. And I think, at this point, anyone that tries to deny that it was a genocide, which a lot of people do, is crazy.
Right. Obviously, that is a sticking point. So
For a lot, yeah.
Why do you believe it's a genocide, especially if you compare it to, as an example, what America did in Vietnam? I mean, 2.1 million civilians in Vietnam were killed by American soldiers.
Yeah, no, and Vietnam was a horrible war. Nixon, Henry Kissinger, all these guys from that era were absolute murderers.
Yeah.
So with this situation, I think why so many Americans why it's so egregious is because we fund Israel so heavily, right? And not only do we fund them, people think, oh yeah, we just give them $4 billion or $3 billion. We also pay the Egyptians and the Jordanians to play nice with Israel since they're on their border from a security standpoint. And that also doesn't account for all the times that we've been involved in conflicts and wars and or have to mobilize our military assets to protect them. Like us moving aircraft carriers to be in position to protect Israel when Iran started retaliating with ballistic missiles, that costs a lot of money too, and that's not accounted for. And then we're not even talking about all the private donors that donate money like Mary Madelson, et cetera, to Donald Trump for Israel. Where was I going with this?
I would just say, just really briefly, that a couple of things could be true at the same time.
Sure.
Which is the younger generation is not on board with America sending money over to foreign countries.
Yeah.
I think that's fair to say.
Oh, that's what I was going to say. Sorry. TikTok, Twitter, more free speech on Twitter, alternate platforms like Rumble, and then obviously what transpired on October 7th and us seeing all that happen, all of this stuff red-pilled people. And then with the genocide, I'll land here. With the definition of genocide, it's the killing of people in whole or in part. And every genocide scholar pretty much has come out and said, even Israeli ones, right, even Jewish ones, that might have not thought so before, said, okay, now it's getting egregious. At this point, this is genocide. Because when the dust settles and we actually figure out the casualties, we're going to be in the hundreds of thousands.
But let me ask you this question. Even if we follow that logic and we say it's a genocide, and I'm not intentionally trying to do whataboutism, but when you're thinking about Nigeria and Christians,
that's terrible.
I mean, that's right. And I gave you the numbers for Vietnam, and that's just one war. I mean, we're not talking about other situations or what Obama did during his term where he killed American citizens.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. The Odrona. Is what we call it.
Exactly. So
Barack Odrona.
So I think my thing has always, my contention on this particular subject, because I've never been to Israel. I've never been to Gaza. But I've been to Afghanistan. So if you want to talk about that, we can talk about that.
Yeah,
right?
sure.
But my contention has always been, no matter what side you're on, can we all at least agree that the goal should be peace? That's number one.
Absolutely. I agree.
And we may disagree on how we get there. We may disagree on the influence, whether people believe the influence is greater than what other people may believe it is, as far as, lobbyists and donors, etc. But even if we're talking about the donors and if they're Jewish, I would argue that's not even the problem. The problem is American politics, because of the Supreme Court ruled that people can donate money. Corporations can donate money. So until that's addressed, whether it's Jews or tech bros or
oil companies,
we're always going to have this level of influence over our politicians. And so that's the second thing, is understand the bigger picture of our politics, and that it's already inherently flawed.
Yeah.
And they spend 95% of their time doing what exactly?
Yeah.
Trying to get elected again.
Absolutely.
So, that's kind of one of my big things.
Yeah, the whole lobbying economy, for lack of a better term, that we have in the United States is a problem in itself, right? Whether it's, the oil companies, the technical companies, et cetera, because a lot of these tech companies like Zuckerberg, Bezos, Elon Musk, all these guys are career Democrats, or lifelong Democrats. Like, they've never really voted Republican, but once they saw Trump survive that assassination attempt in Butler, Pennsylvania, that's when they said, yeah, this guy's going to win. We need to rally around him, because Elon originally supported Ron DeSantis.
Yeah.
He did not support Trump. And before that, he was a Democrat. So, lobbying in itself, I do think, has inherent problems. I think the biggest reason why so many young people are, disgusted by this is because they're actually seeing where their tax dollars are going.
Yeah.
And the thing is that, we've had these problems in the Middle East for a very long time, but we've never had raw footage of what our tax dollars go into when it comes to the wars in the Middle East for Israel. So I think that's what's pissed a lot of people off.
I think the impression I get from you and a lot of people who have your stance on Israel is that part of it is the fact that results have shown when America intervenes in other countries, whether that's changing their government, right? Whether that is going in and toppling certain people or assassinating certain people, whatever.
We've done it all.
You could go down the list of it all. That the results have shown what has that actually done for American citizens besides sons and daughters obviously being killed in battle. And I told you the first time, like you go to Afghanistan and you could tell like, okay, why are we here exactly?
Yeah.
I mean, most soldiers I served with, I mean, you thought about that quite a bit.
Yeah.
We love,
and that's nuts.
We love serving. There's no doubt about
course,
that. You know, we're proud, and every soldier, their goal is to go overseas because, I mean, you join the military not to just stay in America, right?
Serve,
you want to fight. And it doesn't matter whether you're infantry or you're in a support role. You want to know that when I served the military, I got to actually go fight on behalf of my country. The problem, though, is that when I was in Afghanistan, you could tell.
What years were you there from?
2009 to 2010. So that was kind of peak.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right after.
A lot of crazy stuff going on.
Yeah.
Because this is before Osama was found.
Yeah, that's right.
So we were really ramping up in Afghanistan at that point.
Yeah. And it was, I mean, I was older, younger. And so it was quite an experience. And on a side note, I really wish people of all, stripes could leave this country and go see other cultures.
Yeah.
From a mindset
makes
point
you
of
way
view.
more, makes you have real perspective. Living in America your whole life, you got to go out there and at least see how the rest of the world lives too.
Yeah. But my point that I want to arrive at here is that Afghanistan happens to be, and they told us this because they were trying to educate us on the history of the country, was the only country that's been invaded more than any other country and still has yet to be conquered.
Yes.
I just find that to be so interesting.
Osama beat the Soviets there. And actually that's what actually led to Osama having beef with the United States. So Osama was backed by the CIA and the American intelligence community and government to fight the Soviets in the 80s with the Mujahideen. They won. They were victorious. And also Bin Laden had a lot of money. A lot of people don't know, like Bin Laden's family are like very wealthy billionaires, because Osama's family had a very lucrative construction business that basically controlled all the contracts in Saudi Arabia and building it. So he was a guy who was a devout Muslim, wanted to be a part of the cause, wanted to, he had an issue when what do you call kafir, infidels would invade Muslim land. So he went ahead, took his own money, brought a bunch of fighters over there, was backed by the CIA to fight the Soviets, and he won because of exactly what you're talking about. With the terrain, it's very difficult to invade Afghanistan. So when Saddam Hussein invaded Kuwait, Osama went to the royal family and said, look, we just beat the Mujahideen. He's on cloud 9. Let us defend you guys against Saddam if he decides to invade. And they said, no, we appreciate that, Osama. We love you and your family. You guys built this country, but no, thank you. We're not going to do that. We're going to use the United States. Petrodollar's a thing. Let's go ahead and get protection from them. He loses it. How are you going to let Kafirs come in and protect Muslim land, this holy land? They can't step foot here, blah, blah. Well, the Saudi Arabian government doesn't really like criticism, right? So, instead of hitting him with the Khashoggi, slicing him up in some embassy somewhere, they exiled him. And he actually had to go to Sudan
Interesting.
in the mid-90s. And that's where he started to get more radicalized and started hating the United States and created Al-Qaeda, started plotting some of these terrorist attacks. But, I tell you this story because the neocons like the Colin Powells and all these other individuals were trying to say, oh, well, Mohammed Atta, the lead hijacker of 9/11, met with an Iraqi intelligence officer in, I think it was like Malaysia or Prague or something like that, to pass off anthrax. Well, that was a lie. That meeting never happened, isn't true, but they needed a link to justify invading Iraq. And that's how they were able to do it, by falsely saying that Osama and Saddam were working together to attack the United States. But anyone that knows the history knows that couldn't be further from the truth.
Yeah, when you say that, it makes me think about the fact that we have been paying millions and millions of dollars on a weekly basis to the Taliban. I think we still have yet to stop that.
Yeah, they stole a bunch of our equipment. They got a bunch of our.
But why are we paying the Taliban? Is what I don't understand.
Yeah, it's strange.
I just don't get that. Let me look this up because
we're probably backing the rebels that fight against them. That's what we normally do. We always back like the Kurds and these other groups that fight these extremists.
Okay,
and then we kind of just leave them to dry after the war's done.
Yeah. So this is Venice.ai. For the people out there that may use ChatGPT, did you know that OpenAI has admitted to not actually deleting your history? So even if you hit archive or delete this chat thread, it's still saved. And it's really interesting because how do I know this to be true? Well, I told you guys we accidentally deleted Myron's first interview. And what's interesting is when we ran the software to recover these files, I was looking at files dating all the way back to like 2010. I'm like, what? So anyways, you think OpenAI doesn't have a copy of your chat threads? Of course they do. Well, Venice AI, which the link is below this video, prides themselves on a private and uncensored experience when using a learning language model or a chat bot. So what I want to do is just show you guys an example because I am curious about this, which was, is the USA still paying the Taliban, and how much? And if so, how much? And what's cool, you don't even have to actually log in to use it. It'll just automatically work for you. I'm really curious, but what do you think the number is?
If we're still funding them now, I'd be surprised, but it's going to be probably in the billions with a B or high millions.
Yeah.
Probably billions over time. Hey, but I'm for anything that's an alternative to Google, bro. This is good.
Yeah. According to the department press briefing, April 8th, it was mentioned that at least 11 million was, what is this right here? I don't even know what
see.
Yeah, let me zoom in on that. What is that?
Oh, siphoned.
Siphoned.
Yeah, siphoned or enriching the Taliban. So they were basically stealing money. Okay, so let me see here. According to the Department of Briefing sorry guys, it's a little hard for us to read here. Okay, from April 8, 2025, it was mentioned that at least $11 million being siphoned or enriching the Taliban in the process of food aid. This suggests that the U.S. may not be directly paying the Taliban. There may have been instances where funds intended to. Okay, so yeah, so they might have diverted funds and stole stuff that was intended for others. And they siphoned that money off. They embezzled it basically.
So why did Tim, because I know this already by heart because I'm kind of a little bit passionate on it. So why did Tim Burchard introduce pieces of legislation to stop the payments to Taliban family members? Because that's how he characterized it. Let's just see what it has to say here. I can actually zoom in. There we go. I think that'd be easier to read. There we go. No tax dollars for terrorist act to prevent U.S. taxpayer funds from being used to support the Taliban. This legislation aims to ensure that financial aid intended for Afghanistan does not end up in the hands of the Taliban or other terrorist groups. The bill requires that the State Department to develop and implement a policy to deter foreign nations and NGOs from providing financial or material aid. Okay, so basically it was being routed through NGOs. Okay.
And also potential black wallets, right? Where the government does illegal activity to fund, paying these terrorists off because they don't want it being traced back.
And here's that number. So Burch's efforts are driven by concerns that a significant amount of U.S. aid, potentially up to $40 million per week.
Oh, wow.
Is indirectly benefiting the Taliban through various channels, including taxes and fees imposed on humanitarian aid. This is wild.
Yeah, that's absolutely nuts. And that doesn't even account for the black budget either.
Right.
Like the money we give them on the side, hey, wink, wink, hudge, hudge, nudge, nudge.
Yeah. So guys, that was Venice.ai. The good news is I just searched up that information and maybe the government won't find out about it.
Yeah. Now the Mossad's going to delete this interview now too.
There you go. Well, no, this is live.
Yeah. So they'll find a way to delete it. They're going to be like, they know so much.
Yeah.
Shut it down.
Okay. Let's go to this next one I want to talk to you about because we had this good conversation the first time.
Sure.
And it was about what we're continuing to see from the Democrat Party, particularly DEI, and how it's negatively impacted the black community. And the reason why I want to talk about this is because I know you're Muslim, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. So obviously you probably have experienced some, what word do you want to use? How people have treated you because of your skin.
Oh, yeah. No, I mean, I never talk about it. I use it I've dealt with discrimination, racism. I've dealt with it all, right? Because, on one end, I'm black skin color wise, but I'm also Muslim, I'm Arab. So I get all the jokes. I get the plain jokes. I get the, violent criminal jokes, right? I get it all. But I never let that stop me from, striving to be better and be successful. I never use it as an excuse. Because my thing is, I think within the black community, there's too much victimhood, too much blaming of alleged white supremacy that keeps them back from success. And my argument is simply white supremacy and or racism that they claim is no longer a viable excuse to not be successful in America.
Right. So let's see if we're on the same page about this. I'm of the belief that the Democrat Party today, excuse me, they are the ones who are actually racist because they have created racist policies like DEI. Does that make sense?
Dude, I mean, yeah, because now what you're basically doing is any person of color that reaches a certain status or a stature within the government or in the professional world, whatever, people are going to think, did he get that off of merit or did he get it because it filled a quota for affirmative action? Because in our generation, we called it affirmative action. Now it's called DEI. They rebranded it, right?
Right.
And the thing with the Democrats is, they're fantastic at like selling a dream to the black community. And this is why they overwhelmingly, 80, 90% vote Democrat?
Yes.
Right? Like, and this is why they call people like me and you Uncle Toms and all these other, pejorative terms for being rational thinkers. But they got them hook, line, and sinker. It's always the same tired BS. Oh, we stand by you. We're going to fight to get you your reparations. We're going to create more opportunities for inner city youth. It's always the same stuff. I mean, Kamala, I remember, sat down, plenty of times and said, yeah, we're going to definitely try to get you guys back your reparations, all this other stuff. And it's like, dude, how would we even go about doing that, right? It doesn't even make sense.
It doesn't matter. People must be punished.
Exactly. Yeah.
Now, she wrote something.
We got to all pay for it.
Right, exactly. So I saw a clip where she mentioned you.
Oh, yeah.
And is it Andrew Tate as well? In her book, and blamed you guys for why she lost.
Yeah, so.
Can you explain that?
Yeah. So in her book, she just released, I think it's called like 107 Days on page 176.
Should be 107 ways why she lost.
Yeah, or 109 ways. No, I'm just kidding. In her book, it's on like page 176. She said that that she had lost the young man's vote because other people like myself and Andrew Tate who put women in their place were more influential, and they would rather listen to guys like us than go out and turn out and vote for her. Because I was a hardcore Trump supporter in 2024. I was telling everybody, get out there and vote. This is probably one of the most important elections we've ever dealt with. Yes, I know that he's a shill for Israel, but you know what? He's going to do better than another 4 years under Kamala. We need to get out there and support Trump. And though I don't agree with some of his foreign policy when it comes to Israel, I think in general, what he's done with immigration, the economy in general, the recession of censorship, that in of itself has been huge, right? Because once he came in, a lot of these tech companies started chilling out with the censorship. I think that in itself is a big W. But yeah, she basically blamed me and Andrew for being too influential on young men and creating this air of misogyny where they wouldn't vote for a female president.
Why do you think men have become, I guess, why has the content that you have produced, Andrew Tate, Kevin Samuels, to a certain extent.
Rest in peace to him.
Yeah, rest in peace. People like, because those are the really three that I think of in my mind. Why do you think it resonated with younger men so much in today's world?
No, fantastic question. I'm glad that you asked that. I think the Democrat Party has done a fantastic job of ostracizing young men, right? Over the past 10 years or so, we've seen this, absolute demonization of traditional masculine traits, right? Whether it's going to the gym, being assertive, being dominant, telling women no, being decisive. These are all traits that are considered toxically masculine, right? And you can only take so much over a period of time before you say, this is BS. I'm tired of being lectured and, how I should be. Why are women telling me how to be a man? This doesn't make sense. And I think, one of the pivotal moments that I always like to reference with people was the Gillette commercial. There was a famous Gillette commercial that came out back in like 2019, 2020-ish, right? Where there were a bunch of, boys playing roughhousing, doing the things that guys do, and they tried to put that as toxically masculine, right? Boys will be boys, right? Was the famous thing. And this commercial ended up actually backfiring and costing Gillette a lot of money. But let's not analyze how much of a, advertisement blunder it was. Rather, how the hell did we even get here where a men's razor company is ostracizing and attacking their own base? And the reason why is because we live in a world now where it's totally okay to shit on men. It's so much so that a razor company that has most of its customers being men felt comfortable enough to take that risk. Now, obviously ended up backfiring on them greatly, but it goes to show more of the gall that they would do something like that. Because I'll tell you this, if the shoe was on another foot and Victoria's Secret released a commercial saying, hey, bimbos, you need to start making sandwiches, treat men with more respect, stop being 304s, blah, 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 Victoria's Secret would be out of business immediately, right? They would never do something so risky because criticizing women is unacceptable, criticizing men is. So that problem with Gillette, that ad was a microcosm of a much bigger problem, which the left, and what that is that the left is disenfranchised, ostracized, and been disrespecting men for a very long time. And men are sick of it. And they're like, you know what? We want to go ahead and be able to, have locker room talk. We want to be able to be men. We want to be able to be, what they call toxic masculinity is the masculinity that created this country in the first place. You need guys that are willing to fight. Every revolution was led by men. So I think guys are waking up and smelling the coffee and saying, no, we don't want more of this BS, right? We don't want someone who's going to browbeat us into how we should be thinking and being politically correct, et cetera. And this is why we've seen this like rise of young men leaning more right. Our generation, I remember, it was cool to vote for Obama. It was cool to be a Democrat. It was cool to be progressive. Now, the young men are way more on the right wing.
Those terms have absolutely changed.
Yeah,
they're
it's
not even
changed
the same.
a lot.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, and also another thing too is like the left has shifted more and more left. So like, I would like to use my friend Tim Pool as an example. Like someone like him was considered a leftist 10 years ago.
Yes.
But since they've kept going further and further left, now he's considered an alt-right or right guy.
It's like Joe Rogan. They consider him a conservative podcast.
Yeah.
He's not a conservative podcast.
Not at all. Not at all. He's I would say he's probably more politically centered or libertarian.
Yeah, exactly.
But to them, they look at us all, and that's the problem with the left is like they look at us all the same. That we're all bigots, we're all racist, we're all misogynists, we're all Nazis, etc. No matter how moderate you are. So this is why I think the Democrat Party has been struggling with the male vote. It's not that me and Andrew Tate are like, super special or whatever, where we're able to influence elections, though maybe a little bit. What I think is, it's not necessarily that we won, it's that the Democrats dropped the ball and we were able to better relate with and identify with the young men because we know what they've been through. And when, as a young guy, when you're hearing someone talk about the trials and tribulations that you're dealing with, that progressives are not addressed or talked about ever, that resonates very hard.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I had a important person calling me.
No worries, man. No. I know you're looking at the phone. It's like family stuff.
Yeah. So, okay, you touched on a couple of important points here, and I just want to highlight a couple of them. Number one is that Democrats have gone so far left that they've pretty much have left people who are center in a position where now they, on the spectrum, they look like they are conservatives.
Absolutely.
When, in some cases, they're not really
Yeah,
conservatives.
a lot of times they're more centered.
Yeah, exactly. And secondly, where do you think this is going to go in the next 5 years? Because I know you've been talking about a lot of these issues for many, many years, particularly with females and dating, et cetera. But just on the masculinity part, where do you see that going as it relates to the Democrat Party? Because we know they believe in people like Tim Walz, Pete Buttigieg, Gavin Newsom.
Egalitarianism type relationships. I see it getting worse. And the reason why I see it getting worse is that, so to understand, it's like women since the 1960s have been fighting for this, right? They've been fighting for equality, being able to work, do everything a man can do. And feminism started as an egalitarian project. Now it's a supremacy project. And since women make their own money and have their own status and are able to have their own educations, the average guy has now become invisible to the average woman.
Right.
Because if a woman makes $50K per year, the average salary of a man, she doesn't want a guy that makes $50K per year. On average, Cornell found in a study, put this out, like women want roughly 25% more. So if you make $100,000, if she makes $100,000, she wants you to make $125,000.
But they won't understand that.
The women?
Exactly.
Yes, yeah. And their standards have went up.
It's an interesting, it's a calculation they have a hard time realizing. When the more money they make,
yes,
the more their perception of men starts to change.
Absolutely.
And even though they say they deny it,
No, you're 100% sure. No,
no.
I have anecdotal evidence to back what you're saying. I've literally had almost 4,000 girls on my show.
Yeah.
And one of the questions I'd love to ask them is, how much money do you think the average man makes?
Right.
You'd be amazed at 100,000, 200,000, 300,000,
They don't.
500,000.
Yeah.
They have completely no idea of what an average guy is, right? And how much money they make. And that's just one of the components. We're not even talking about charm, how they look, are they in good shape, do they smell or not, are they awkward? We haven't even talked about all these other attraction triggers. But the reality is for young men out there is average women don't want average men. And to be even more bluntly honest with you guys, most women look at you as a pesky mosquito. That's how they look at it. Most men simply don't measure up.
Well, I mean,
to them.
In the true results of the word rejection, of course, men get rejected way more than women. I would tell my wife this a lot is
they have more options than ever before.
I would explain this to her. I was saying, what I don't like about this entire way that Democrat Party has described men, et cetera, and all these other things it just shows you what they don't understand, what men have to go through. And men are not looking for sympathy. We're not looking, hey, please understand. But just some context here. When a man has to go out in the world, it's like the Wild Wild West.
Absolutely.
It's like the animal kingdom. Men don't have no problem cutting you off, even if it was your livelihood. We'll fire you like that. You're done. But women, on the other hand, they have these boss babe groups, right? They have this huge support system where they want each other to make a lot of money. And I'm not saying that's a negative, like, they shouldn't do things like that. But when's the last time you heard of boss men group? Come on, man, I want to help you. That doesn't really exist.
Yeah,
you know
no,
what I mean?
it's like women are the only ones that get the privilege of saying I'm strong and independent. If a guy said that, we'd laugh at him and say, bro, you're just being an adult.
Exactly. Yeah,
right?
it's normal.
We infantilize, women's ability to create their own security. Like, oh, look at you. But going back to what you're saying with the whole boss babe thing or whatever and how they run things. And this is one of the things that I'm actually, I truly do think this is why men need to be in leadership roles a lot. And it comes from this psychological perspective that like women just don't have the same, they don't understand dominance hierarchies the same way that men do, right? So like if with men, right, we can walk into a room and kind of size each other up, and the guy that's the most successful, has the most money, has the most status, etc., we automatically defer to their authority to a degree. We understand that there's a pecking order right away.
Automatically.
When we play, whether it's playing pickup basketball as a kid and they get first pick or any of that other stuff.
I know where you're going. It's like when they put the men out in the wild and tell them to survive versus the women. The men automatically know who's leading.
Survivor Series proved this. So but with women, they don't understand this meritocracy. And a lot of people get mad at me for pointing this out, that women don't understand dominance hierarchies. And not only do they not understand it, it's difficult for them to understand because women by nature are more communitarian. Right? This is why they tend to vote left more. This is why they tend to like socialist ideologies. This is why they tend to rely on the government more and vote for people that will give them more aid. Because women have a natural proclivity to look for security through other means, not just, their partner.
That's why, just so everybody knows where I stand on this, the most dangerous person in this country is a female white liberal. That's not being racial.
No, that's the truth.
That's just based on policies that they support, the language they use, and how they actually look at black people. I would argue it is the female white liberals who were behind DEI.
Oh, yeah. No, dude, they're at the forefront. Every single progressive movement that gets pushed is always led by them. It's always led by them. They're at the forefront. Then you got, the other minority groups, whatever. But yeah, man, because all this liberalism that we're experiencing now was spearheaded through feminism. Feminism started all this in the 1960s because what ended up happening was feminism was the Trojan horse from which the alphabet communities, reparations, liberalism, progressivism, all the stuff, all the, liberal elements that we're dealing with today.
It's gone too far when even gay people don't like what's happening.
Yeah.
And they've come out in large numbers and said, this is
stop messing with kids and stuff like drag queens reading. So like all of these, toxic liberal ideologies came through the Trojan horse of feminism.
That is just so interesting. It's really, I believe it's the devil. And I also believe, because for me, in my own faith, it's God, it's my marriage, and then my kids. Like even in that aspect, like you were saying, how the concept of religion has been thrown in the trash in America.
Yeah.
Right. Most people are. Well, I'm not going to say most people because I don't really know what the numbers are right now. But I will say, when you get into religion, there are standards, there are structures that I think are conducive to having a productive and a happy life.
Absolutely.
And I think because, like you were saying, feminism has pretty much kind of, and maybe they didn't directly mean to do this, it's just as what the results are, right?
Yeah. I mean, feminism, I would argue, was a counterweight to the institutions that religion built. It used to be get married young, have children, have a family, have a man, be a stay-at-home mom, take care of the kids. That's your job. The man goes and works and creates the resources. But now what feminism has done is kind of like blurred the lines in the gender roles and tells women you can do whatever you want to do. And then worse yet, not only can you do whatever you want to do, but you can go ahead and have a family at the end of all this. Go ahead and chase your career and sleep with a bunch of guys and everything. Religion used to kind of curb this from the beginning, right? Telling them like, look, you need to prioritize this because this is what's actually going to get you fulfillment. And I see so many women now that like bought into the feminist lie of the Sex and the City lifestyle. And now they have nothing to show for, and they're depressed, even if they make $100,000 a year.
Isn't it interesting how, as men, we can be told, get your crap together, get your money up, get your weight up, right?
Yeah,
whatever.
absolutely.
Right? Like, get a job, stop being lazy. And we're like, oh yeah, that's exactly what I needed to hear, right? Especially when men wake up and they're, because when you're 20 something, your brain, it's still developing according to science. Men really don't start thinking until 30. And maybe that's just my own personal experience, because that's kind of the way it was for me in my 20s, man. It was like a blur. Like I really felt like I was never really thinking. I was just acting a lot of times. And when you don't have that mentorship, you're kind of just doing whatever you're exposed to. But once you reach 30, you start to realize, oh, wait a minute, man, I need to fix my mindset. I need to get my money right. I need to do a lot of things.
And I can tell you why. So like, interesting. I'm glad that you brought that up. So, because I've coached both men and women, right? Whether it be through fitness or dating or any of this other stuff. I've actually done a lot of consultations with women. I don't talk about this openly, but hey, we get exclusive over here. One of the biggest things I notice when I talk with women versus when I talk with men. With men, I can be plainly blunt. They tell me their problems, and I tell them, this is why you're messing up. This is what you need to do.
Right.
You're a loser. I can be raw and authentic and absolutely destroy them. With the women, I have to put kid gloves on to a degree and explain to them, this is what it is, because women put more stake in how I say things to them versus what I'm saying to them. Versus men, you can keep it raw. Yeah. And what I figured out...
That's what happened with Kevin Samuels. That's what...
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I figured out why. The reason why men are more receptive to harsh criticism is because their reality reflects it. They just needed you to connect the dots for them.
Yeah.
They're not respected by their peers. They're not getting women. They're getting rejected by every person they approach. It's hard for them to find a job. They know in the back of their mind that they're not performing. They're depressed, etc. Right? All I did was confirm it for them from an outside perspective to validate what they already thought.
Right.
With women, it doesn't work that way, because women don't get negative reinforcement for poor performance. Men do. So if a woman is like rude, obnoxious, bitchy, crass, whatever it may be, men that she date or people that she's around aren't going to tell her that, because a lot of times these guys want to sleep with her. So when I tell her, look, you're very abrasive, you have an A-type personality, this just isn't going to cut it with the type of guy that you want. You need to lower your standards. That doesn't reflect what she observes every day. So she kind of bucks back and like, I don't like hearing this.
It's not her experience.
Yes. Yeah. But what women need to understand a lot of times is like, your experience a lot of times is not going to be actually indicative of where you stand in the sexual marketplace, because men are going to sell you a facade to sleep with you. Yeah. With men, at least I can be honest, because their reality is reaffirmed by what I'm telling them.
It just shows you they lack, and
two different worlds between the two.
Yeah. I'm just trying to be polite here. I just think that to a certain extent, women are not being taught how to understand or why they should understand men.
Absolutely.
But it goes both ways, because men need to understand, which is based on your advice, like you listed off these things earlier. It's right that men should understand women, and which is always inherently true, because men are told, hey, you need to get your money up, man. You need to be able to provide for your family. And then Democrat Party comes along and says, oh, no, that's toxic.
Yeah, you guys are equal.
50-50. What do you mean you need to provide for your family? But what they don't, and this gets me going so much, they don't understand that if you start telling men, don't get your money up, don't work out, don't seek to provide, you're taking away what's already built in their DNA.
Yep.
That's why men who are losers is because they don't have a purpose.
Yep. And that's why they're depressed.
Yeah.
Depression a lot of times comes from inadequacy. Like you just being a bum and not being successful.
Right.
Show me a guy that's in good shape, that is making a bunch of money, does what he's supposed to do, that's depressed. It's damn near impossible to find.
Right.
A lot of this depression is self-inflicted by being a loser, but it also comes from like guys, kind of giving up and saying like, oh, I don't need women or anything else like that. And then, they don't, if you don't have the impetus to, to work, a lot of guys need a family structure to motivate them to get out there and, be a somebody.
Yeah.
So
let's go to the chat just to check in here. And we have one more short topic I want to get to, but just want to see what these people are saying in the chat.
For whatever.
Let's see here. Amazing. DeVory's collaborating with Myron. Been following both you guys for years. Thank you. Here we go. The main reason that women feel the need to make money is because before the 1980s, if a man just left, cheated, or was a raging alcoholic, it was difficult for the woman to thrive with kids. Listen, I'm not saying that didn't happen, because we know that happened.
Of course.
I just think that it's one of those situations where it's like, people are talking about something they didn't experience. Like, for example, Democrats say that Trump is a dictator. You guys don't even know what a dictator is.
Yeah.
You never even served under one. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
And what I say is, I think what happens when you hear that statement it turns into a statement where people believe that happened 95% of the time, which maybe it might have happened 10% of the time.
Oh yeah,
or 20% of the time.
So we can address that real quick. So women a lot of times have this irrational fear that men are going to leave them and leave them with the bag, and they're not going to be able to take care of themselves. But the data simply doesn't represent that. An overwhelming amount of divorces, somewhere between 70 to 80% of divorces, are almost always initiated by women. So men aren't the ones ending this relationship. And then you also touched on something before that I want to add more to. You mentioned how women aren't really taught what men want, right? Or they're not really like when me and you were little boys, we were told, get a job, make money, you need to raise a family, you need to become successful. There's no other choice, right? And we're taught, be respectful to women. We're taught how to treat, girls. Women, on the other hand, are not taught how to treat boys or men in general. Like the reason why women don't, and I get this question so much on my show, it's incredible the amount of data I've been able to collect from interviewing all these women. One of the craziest questions I get from women is, well, what do men want then? And they truly, genuinely don't know sometimes. And then when and then I think about it, I'm like, you know what? Now I know why they don't know. If you've went your entire life getting attention from men, getting dates from men, getting offers from men, and you never had to understand them to get these dates in the first place, what would incentivize you to understand what the opposite gender wants? What would incentivize you? So like they've been able to get everything that they want without necessarily having to understand men, versus us. If we don't understand women, we don't get laid. It is what it is. So we must figure this out. For them, they don't have to. And I think this is what men also need to understand is that
just really quick. That's why, just so everybody knows, the amount of virgins on the male side is at an all-time high.
Yes. The reporting loneliness and somewhere between something like a significant amount of men, 80%, something like that, is like only had sex with one woman or no women in the past 5 years or something like that.
Yeah.
Some crazy statistic. But yeah, no, with women, they don't have no incentive to learn because they don't have to, the men come up to them. Yeah. So this is kind of what it is and why we have what we have. And this is why so many women like perpetually fail, because they don't know what men want. They think a career, being more like a guy. I hear them say crazy things like, yeah, a man wants a woman that could challenge him. No, we don't. Like the world already challenges us, but this is how they
don't understand
the propaganda.
That in a sense, in some cases, depending on your career, you may feel as a man that you're already at war when you leave your house because there's so much competition. Yeah. So the last thing you need is competition in your own house, right? That totally makes sense. And something that my wife brings up.
But for women, they don't know a lot of them. It's shocking how so many of them don't know this.
Yeah. My wife, she says this, and I think she told you this as well. It's interesting how women also overthink it, meaning just because you're a stay-at-home mom, that still doesn't mean you aren't able to make money.
Yeah.
In 2025.
Yeah.
How many women can make money just posting things on Instagram about how they fold their towels, what they bought at Target? I'm using the most basic example,
of
right?
Course, yeah.
Right, and how you could do affiliates and like there's women making some good money doing that.
Yeah, and I've always said, look, I understand that we live in a society now where inflation is high. A double income is going to need to be the norm in some cases. I get that. My biggest thing is I always said, I think the man should be the primary breadwinner and the woman should work from an elective standpoint. So in other words, she can tell her boss at any time, if she has one, go pound sand.
Yeah.
I don't need this job.
Yeah.
And I think every woman deserves, and this is what they never clip, by the way.
Yeah.
I think every woman that's in a relationship or married deserves that level of security from their man where they can literally give the middle finger to their boss.
Right.
Because I think it's a man's job to protect and provide. And if a woman does work from home, I think that's the best way to do it. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, you're fine. I can go all day with this because literally, like as a Christian in the Bible, it says, if a man is not providing for his family, he's actually worse than a non-believer.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So when you were talking about, hey, religion and how it has guardrails, and it's totally solid because it instructs men in the Bible. Hey, you got to provide and protect. Anyways, let's go to Rumble just really briefly. Shout out to Rumble because I know you guys have.
Yeah, we love Rumble. Shout out to Chris and the whole squad over there.
Let's see here. Myron, there are fields that lend to women like nursing and teaching.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, no, there's always going to be fields, but notice how those fields are almost always people dominated, right? It's not like STEM so much, the science, technology, engineering, and math, because women are more interested in people, men are more interested in things.
Right. Okay, let's go to this one here. It's also because of those toxic women groups on Facebook where exes talk crap about you online.
Oh, yeah.
I have an ex from 10 years ago that still talks crap about me, and I've been married for 5 years.
She's jealous of you, man.
Yeah.
They don't want to see you win.
Yeah, someone says, in a marriage, it's the patriarchy The man is at the top. It's just a fact. No 50-50 BS. Respect her, but the man is the leader. No other way works, as proven by history. Yeah, I mean, results tell the story.
Yeah, and it's a coincidence that like every major religion puts the man as the head of the household, right? Every culture, almost every culture in the world since the beginning of time, without the advent of cell phones or email or whatever, all figured out that like, men need to probably lead. Like they all came to this natural conclusion.
Yeah. All right, let's get to the final thing I want to talk about, and we kind of went in reverse. If you think about it, the last time,
I'm down for whatever.
was about the black community.
Okay.
And the reason why I want to talk about this is because I think the most dangerous thing, I don't know if the word dangerous is, but the most dangerous thing to the Democrat Party is I'm using their language, okay?
Yeah,
so
go ahead.
Just work with me.
Okay, no worries.
Is a person of color who is a conservative or does not buy into their ideals. What do you say to that?
No, yeah, 100%. They look at me and you as like traitors. Guys like me, you, Brandon Tatum, Candace Owens, right? Black conservatives with like large audiences. They look at us as like traitors. Like, oh, you guys are whitewashed. You guys are, traitors. You guys don't understand. You're not with the movement, blah, blah, blah. And I think people on this side of the internet and this side of the political party, we understand that meritocracy is the most important thing, not skin color, right? I don't care if you're green. Like, my thing is, are you competent? Can you do the job? And if you can do it, we got something to talk about, right? Because successful people don't look at skin color, right? Like, I do every now and then to make jokes and everything else like that. But the real play is race at the end of the day shouldn't be the deciding factor in who you support. It should be ideology, shared values, shared faith. These are the things that we should be aligning on. But yeah, they hate people like us because, we call out a lot of the problems in the black community a lot of times, and they don't like hearing this, right? And then they'll find a way to disqualify what we're saying. So for me, for example, they'll tell me, well, you're a tether. You're not one of us. You didn't build this country up. You're not a foundationally black American. We create a lot of this stuff for you to even come in here and thrive. And it's like, okay, well, the reality is, okay, how is it that you've been here for, 8 generations, but you only got $8 in your bank account, Jamal? Like, what's going on here? Like, you know what I mean? Or for you, they might, attack you in some other way saying that you're an Uncle Tom because you're actually a foundational black American. So they find a way to disqualify our message every single time.
They always say that I'm married to a white woman.
That's how they attack you? Yeah, there you know Not surprised.
That's what they tell me. I'm like, it's okay to have a difference of opinion.
This is what kills me is like, they look at it like, we don't care about what you're saying. We care about who is saying it. So in their mind, if you're not like them, they don't even want to hear what you got to say. But my argument to that is always like, well, does a mathematician genius need to tell you 1 + 1 is 2 for you to accept that it's 2? Like the truth is the truth, regardless of who says it. But they put more stake in who says it because they're above reproach.
Right. Yeah. The thing I always credit is my mother who adopted me, because I had 2 parents who were drug addicts. She never once made any conversation about race. And when race was your
adopted mom black or white?
Oh, she was black. She's from Beaumont, Texas, and her family's from Louisiana. You can't get any blacker than that.
Yeah.
So, and we actually did a DNA test, and we're all from Uganda and in that area.
Okay.
Yeah. At any rate,
well, your parents were born here. You have generations back of being in America.
It's our great-great-grandmother who came from there.
Gotcha.
But she never once made it about race. And when she did, it was about, hey, stop talking like that. Stop. Don't sag your pants. Don't, it was more that type of parenting. And I kind of feel like in the black community, we've allowed these hip hop artists, we've allowed hip hop in general, and Hollywood and movies and things like that to kind of dictate what our culture is. I mean, think about it. And I want to know if you've ever, noticed this about the black community. It's the only community, just think about this for a second. It's the only community whose culture is actually made up. Think about it for a second.
Okay, all right.
We didn't bring the culture from Africa.
Yeah.
Our culture was manufactured from slavery.
Yeah.
So a lot of the foods we eat didn't come from Africa. Came from slavery.
Yeah.
The foods that we were, eating and stuff like that. And so over time, there was a period in the black community where, as you know, it was segregated, and there was a time where we really prospered, right? We had black banks,
There are civil, and actually, interestingly enough, it was when we were the most oppressed in the civil rights era.
Yeah. It's an interesting paradox. right? So like you live in a state of racism, but you had your own economy.
Yeah.
You don't live in a state of racism anymore, but now like
for a detriment to the economy.
Right. Well, and we're like the biggest consumers, if you think about it. Daytime talk show hosts are, or the daytime TV shows are watched predominantly by Black women. I looked this up myself in Nelson ratings.
Interesting fact.
And the Black community are the ones who purchase the most products.
That makes sense,
today.
yeah.
So at any rate, my whole point to all of it is that it's like if you're Irish, your culture goes back like, what, 500 years?
Yeah.
And it hasn't changed. It's, if you think even people who are, Jew and they really do practice that type of culture, their stuff goes way back 500 years. But if you're Black, how far back does your culture go?
Gotcha. Yeah, maybe not even 100 years, if that.
Yeah.
Yeah. In America, at least.
And what happened, I would say after 1960s, is the media, Hollywood, started to portray the Black image in a certain way. And I think some Black people are complicit in this, especially some actors in a sense, and studio execs. But if you wake up in the morning as a Black kid and you turn on the TV and the only thing you see from Hollywood is slavery, the only thing you see from Hollywood is Black people being violent.
Yeah, gangbanging and stuff.
And then you turn on hip hop and you hear, yeah, man, I'm going to shoot you and your mom, right? I'm going to rob
yeah.
F girls, F the police. None of it is like, hey, you need to learn about stocks. You need to invest. You need to be a doctor, engineer. It's nothing like that.
Yeah. And this is the importance of the father. Like a lot of these households that you're talking about, these guys aren't being raised by their father. They're being raised by a rapper. They're being raised by their favorite entertainer. They're being raised by their mother who can't even tell them how to be a man. And, I think the importance of a dad is the dad is supposed to come in and protect you from making mistakes that will ruin your life. I've always said good dads keep daughters off shore poles and sons out of jail, right? He's there to be the first line of defense where he gives you consequences so that the state doesn't ruin your life and give you the consequences.
Right.
And when you have, young testosterone-filled men looking at this propaganda, thinking that this is cool, and there's no father in the house, well, we can see where that's going to lead, and get us going left. And that's why we've had a lot of the problems that we've had.
Yeah. Yeah, I bring that up because I also noticed you had this clip with this student at Penn State.
Yeah.
And he was Black.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Which one? There was two of them I debated with. One was a
Kamala
Kamala
he had dreads
supporter.
on, I believe. Did he have dreads or long hair?
There was one that did dreads.
Yeah.
What was the argument? Because I could tell you.
It's what I'm talking about. It's you have Black people who believe they're victims and.
Oh yeah. It was to do with the glasses that had that victim narrative. He was talking about redlining and all the typical left wing pro-Black white supremacy talking points.
So what do you think is the main lie that Black people are being told?
That the world's against them. They have a chip on their shoulder. You are not getting everything you should be getting because of white privilege. And you are being targeted by the police and they want to kill you and they only want to kill you because you're Black. Those are some of the most pernicious lies.
Is that what you experience on these campuses a lot too?
Yeah, when I debate some of these, it's a perpetual victimhood that, they brought, one of his main arguments was, they put crack in the hood in the 80s. Okay. That sucks. I get it. But how does that affect? You're here at Penn State. You figured it out, right?
Right. Well, let's ask this then.
Yeah.
Does he know who was the biggest crack dealer in New York City at one point in time?
Rich Porter.
It was Porter?
Rich Porter. I know he was one of them.
What was the guy, his Denzel Washington played him in the movie American Gangster?
Frank Lucas.
Yeah,
with the blue heroin or something like that.
Blue Magic.
Yeah, Blue Magic is what they called it. Yep.
My man.
Yeah, that was a great movie.
Yeah, it was a great man. So my point is that, okay, let's then, if we play that game, Frank Lucas is the guy who was, he took it to a whole nother level.
Yeah. And this is what I mean. Like, I didn't even get that far because he was blaming the CIA for flooding the hood with crack, like as if whatever, dude. Like, and this is what I mean when I say dude, well, you have a choice, right?
Do you think there's truth to that?
There's some conspiracy theories. They didn't. Well, but let's assume that they did.
Okay.
Right. Mm-hmm. I told them dude, you still have agency.
Right.
You can't sit because I had to tell them okay, if you want to go ahead and go down this route and say, the CIA flooded us with crack, blah blah blah. then you have to accept the fact that you're a bumbling idiot and you can't make your own decisions and you don't deserve agency. Right. But if you want to be looked at as an equal and be taken seriously, et cetera, then you have to have agency and be able to turn away the crack, dude. Like it's not that hard. Don't break the law.
It's the Kamala Harris example I've been telling people left and right, which is that in her book, she details how they didn't respect her. They didn't give her any energy, any attention. They muzzled her, silenced her, all these things. Well, what do you think is going to happen when they hand you the vice presidency because of your skin color and your gender?
Absolutely.
And not because of merit?
And let's be honest, right? Me and you are both in politics. I think we can both admit this. The vice president position is a ceremonial position.
Yeah.
It's not really it's more of a political tactic to garner votes with people that are not sure where they want to go. And you bring this individual in to, steal a couple votes because they might have some viewpoints that might align, that might be a little bit different than you so that you can grab those people.
Yeah.
Like if we look at like John McCain, we brought Sarah Palin on, right? To combat, campaigning against Obama, who was black. He was like, you know what? I need to go ahead and get the blue vote as well. Let me bring in a woman, right? So it's a strategic ceremonial position. So with Kamala Harris, she was picked not really on her merit, rather of who she was, what she represents, and her checking a bunch of boxes. And I mean, the bigger proof of this is when Biden elected to drop out of the presidential race, she just kind of just took it. Like there was no, formal, voting and, getting her in the proper way like we did at the RNC. She just got announced at the DNC, if I'm not mistaken. She announced, "I'm going to be the candidate." It's like, how did this happen? And that made her lose even more credibility. Then the fact that she, her entire campaign was just a disaster because her handlers were so scared of her doing off-the-cuff interviews that I think it hurt her authenticity and her credibility, and she was doing a lot of try-hard things. She had steam in the beginning, but I think with Trump, his frankness and candidness really helped him. And I think another thing that really hurt her is not leveraging alternative media. She relied way too much on, traditional celebrities like Taylor Swift, LeBron James, Hollywood actors. These guys don't have influence anymore. Nobody cares about what they think. But Trump was doing podcasts with influencers that actually do have real influence. So I think that was another big mistake she did. And she only did off-the-cuff interviews or adversarial interviews towards the end of the campaign, which I think at that point was too late. Yeah.
Let's go to the chats and then we'll wrap up here. I couldn't read Kamala's book. I mean, I would have to be paid some serious cash to read that. Yeah, I know, right? Okay, we have some people talking about you. Myron will probably stay with Islam as long as his mother is alive. What say you?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think Islam fixes a lot of societal problems. I'll never denounce the religion, but my thing is people know that if they watch my content, I have an enormous amount of respect for all the Abrahamic religions, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. At the end of the day, we're way closer than people tend to want to admit.
Yeah.
In similarities, we're all monotheistic.
Yeah, I think people are speculating whether or not you'll become a Christian one day. I think that's what that is.
Yeah, they try to convert me all the time, but because I've gotten into some controversy with Muslims because I had a hot take with the adhan being played in places like Dearborn and Michigan, people praying and people praying at Times Square. My position was I think as a minority, Muslims should exercise a little bit more respect and courtesy and not outwardly pray publicly. This is not a Muslim country. It's not a Muslim nation. I look at it as a Christian nation, whether some people, that's kind of where people disagree with me, like, it's not a Christian nation either. I think that's not true. But, regardless, I think here as guests, we shouldn't be disrupting others to pray. Like, I don't have a problem with people praying publicly, right? As long as it doesn't disturb others. But praying in Times Square with a loudspeaker or playing the adhan multiple times a day in U.S. cities, I just don't think it's appropriate.
Yeah.
I think people should be able to practice the religion, but not at the expense of disturbing others.
Here's a question for you. Please ask Myron if he would consider talking with Sharam. I don't know how to pronounce the last name. Who is that?
I have no idea who that is.
Right there. See it?
Sharam Hadian? No, I never heard of him.
I never heard of him. What's Myron's opinion on Sharia law and child marriages and abusing women? I think you were just kind of touching on that briefly.
Yeah, I mean, I think, I do think we have to be honest here, and I think that there's some components of Sharia law that simply aren't compatible with an American democracy. Freedom of speech is one of them, right? Yeah. Like you can't criticize the Prophet in Islam. You just can't. You can, and for that matter, you can't criticize Jesus either.
Yeah,
you can never say and they have, you'll get into quite a bit of trouble if you go to a Muslim country and insult Jesus. Like they will literally, they'll mess you up. So they have a great deal of respect for Jesus. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it is what it is. I just don't think that Sharia is just not compatible with Western democracy. It just isn't.
Yeah. Okay. So what is your party message for everybody who watched today? Thank you guys for obviously tuning in. I think it's been a great conversation with Myron here. I love to get different people's perspectives, and I think yours has always been an interesting one.
No, I appreciate that, man. I hope the guys enjoyed the interview. I saw that we were pretty much maintaining around 20,000 live the whole time, which is awesome between the different platforms. But no, thank you for giving me the platform, hearing me out. It's not often that I come on a podcast and they actually let me get to kind of explain my position on a lot of things and how I arrived at that conclusion. And no, man, thanks for having me. Really,
absolutely. No, it was really good, guys. If you guys enjoyed this, please share this live stream today. I think you guys aren't going to have a problem finding Myron on social media, but do you want to tell them where they can find you?
Yeah, Myron Gaines X everywhere.
Yeah.
I'm on Rumble, Kick, YouTube, Myron Gaines X everywhere. Yeah. My Instagram is Fed Reacts, and then we do Fresh and Fit, of course, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. We do the Girls Show at 11 p.m. if you guys want to see me debate feminists. And then we do the Day Show for self-improvement, and then every day at 7 p.m. I do my political show, Myron Gaines X, where I cover culture, geopolitics, all this other stuff.
Yeah. I love that. All right, guys, that is the show for today. Thank you for tuning in. Monday through Friday, 1 p.m. Eastern time, bringing you common sense commentary for these uncommon times. God bless you, and God bless the United States of America. Take care, everyone.